What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, it is my Sword of the Sea review. This game came out just a few weeks ago as of recording this video, and it is the newest game from Giant Squid, the team behind games like Journey and Abzu and The Pathless, which I have not checked out. I'll go ahead and say that real quick. This is the first Giant Squid game that I have checked out. I've not played any of their previous games. Journey is one that I've wanted to check out, but I've heard very good things about all Giant Squid games, and I was really looking forward to this game coming out, and it looked pretty cool, looked very interesting, looked like one of those Play Dead inside Limbo style games where there's no voice acting or anything like that, and you just let the game and the visuals do the talking. I really like those games, so I expected that I would like this game. So let's get into what I think about Sword of the Sea and my review of it. Sword of the Sea is an interesting game for me to come at from a review standpoint because it is definitely the shortest game that I've gone about reviewing so far. It can be finished in probably 2-3 hours. It took me 3 hours to finish it. It is not a very long game at all. It's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be a short, very concise experience. You're supposed to get in, get out, and experience the game very quickly. So coming at this game, there's a couple of things I want to talk about, but first we'll talk about the gameplay. So you take control of a wraith who explores an abandoned, desolate world, and the goal is to bring life back to it. You start in these areas throughout the game, and your goal is to kind of like bring the sea to these areas, bring all this aquatic life and water and beautiful visuals and stuff like that. Basically breathe life into all these areas that you come across. And the cool thing about it, and I think what was kind of not really the selling point, but a selling point, was that you, as the Wraith, are riding on this hover sword. It's called a hover sword. So it's a mix of a bunch of different things. A snowboard, a hoverboard, and a skateboard is what they say it is a mix of. And so the gameplay revolves a lot around you exploring this world on that hover sword. And it does feel really, really good to do that. Gameplay, it feels tight. It feels smooth. It just feels good to surf around, I guess you could say, on this hover sword and traverse the world, get up to, higher locations, or, just kind of traverse around and hit tricks on your... It's really weird to say hover sword. It's a cool name for it, but I just want to say skateboard because you do a lot of tricks on it, or a snowboard. You do unlock tricks as the game goes on, which we'll talk about in a second, but that is pretty much the gameplay of this game. There are puzzles as you move through the game. Basically, every time you get to an area, you'll probably see 2 to 4 different things you need to trigger in that area, and you have to find a way to get to those things to trigger it and be able to progress onward. And it takes that approach throughout the game, which is not a bad approach. It's a very basic, simple approach, and it's a very standard one that keeps things moving. It doesn't confuse anything. So there's not like any crazy confusing puzzle or anything like that. And I'd call them puzzles, but yeah, you could get away with not calling them puzzles. I would be completely fine with that. But it's a very basic, standard approach to each different area. As you move through the game, find these 2 to 4 things to activate to unlock a door and move through those. There are a couple things you can find on the side. So there's a currency called, I think it is called Tetra, which you can gather that currency, and then there's a vendor that you can find throughout the game in certain locations that you can donate that currency to, and you will unlock new tricks for the hover sword, which I did not unlock all of the tricks and things that you can do with the hover sword. So there might be a lot more there than what I experienced in my playthrough, but there is more to it than just you start out with what you have. You do unlock new abilities like spin tricks and different flip tricks and stuff like that. So that is pretty cool as the game goes on. It gives you a reason to explore and find these. There's like little kind of pressure plates that'll give you a couple of bits of currency, and then there's huge pressure plates that have cracks in them that you can get a lot from, treasure chests. So there is a reason to explore all these areas, and that will add some time on to your playtime. So if that's something you want to do to get the most out of this game, you can definitely do that. So the puzzles are pretty basic, nothing offensively bad or anything like that. I'm not really a puzzle guy, so I'm not going to say I appreciated how basic they were. It would have been cool to see some, maybe higher level puzzles, but for the most part, I did enjoy the gameplay of Sword of the Sea. There were a couple, I only found one, I'm sure there were more. There were, at least I found one like skating snowboard challenge where it was this small arena where I would just try to get as much score as possible, build up my multiplier, and try to beat my high score. And that was pretty cool. I only found one of those though, so I'm sure there's more and maybe I just didn't find them. But that was a cool little side activity that you are able to do. There's a couple of different collectibles to find, like these kind of pedestals that have text on them for lore. But there are collectibles on the side if you want to really get the most out of this game. There's not a whole lot on the side. I'm not sure how much getting the whole 100% would really kind of, I guess, increase your playtime. I'm not expecting it to go from a 2 to 3 hour playthrough to maybe like a 10-hour playthrough going for the 100%, but I could be completely wrong about that. That's just how I kind of gathered it from my one playthrough of it. So the gameplay is pretty good. It feels great to traverse. The hover sword is a very cool traversal mechanic, I guess. Feels great to use. There are different collectibles and a couple of different side activities to find. There's reasons to explore, and the game just feels good to play. The puzzles, although pretty basic, they get the job done. I was happy with them. Like I said, I would have liked to see like a couple of higher level ones that maybe sit there and think for a second, but for the most part, there's no combat in this game. There's barely any combat. There's a very small bit of combat, which you might talk about in a little bit, but for the most part, your gameplay is traversing around this world, exploring and doing puzzles. Let's talk about the visuals next, because I think this is the part of the game that shines the most. I've heard a lot about these Giant Squid games and really how they're just so great at visual storytelling along with great soundtracks, and we'll talk about both in a second. Visuals though, this game knocks it out of the park. This game is beautiful. I think the art style is really great. It knocks out everything it goes for. It does a great job of environmental variety, which I think is very important, especially in a short game like this. You don't want to spend all of your very short runtime in the same area, the same looking area. You do get to go to different locations, different biomes, and I think that's very important in a game like Sword of the Sea, and they knock it out. Every location looks great. The game itself looks great. All the visuals when it comes to the desert area, snow areas, the water, and all the wildlife and sea that pours into the game as you progress and bring life back to the desolate world. Visuals are very good. What I expected from a Giant Squid game, from what I had heard after not playing any of them, this being my first game, I was definitely well taken care of in the visuals department. Let's just say that I was impressed by the visuals. That was definitely, to me, the strongest part of the game. Just, the game's a looker. It is a looker. It looks great throughout the short runtime. You get to visit some very cool locations and different biomes. So I just want to touch on the visuals very quickly. The soundtrack in Sword of the Sea is also great. It shined in a lot of parts of the game. Like I said, with the visuals, the soundtrack is another thing I heard a lot of great things about when it came to Giant Squid games. and this game does a great job of mixing a lot of different elements with the soundtrack. Definitely, there's a lot of great soundtracks this year in 2025 is a great year for video game soundtracks. Sword of the Sea is one of those soundtracks that are very, very good. Not a whole lot to say when it comes to the soundtrack in the very short runtime, but I did want to mention that the soundtrack is very, very good. It is worth listening to, I think, on your own. If you don't end up playing the game, I still think it's a very unique experience soundtrack wise to just listen to on your own if you can find a way to do that. So the soundtrack, very quickly, just wanted to say it is great in Sword of the Sea, another strong part of the game. Next thing I want to touch on is story, because I kind of gave you the premise earlier where you do take control of a wraith whose goal is to bring life back to this desolate world, and that is pretty much the entire story of Sword of the Sea. They do introduce a couple of things throughout the story. There's a character that you meet that has an important role in the story, and I will just say, without spoiling anything, because it's a short experience, that I think is worth it, especially because of the ending. I think the ending was really, really good. It culminated everything from out the entire game and brought it together in a very, very climactic, or heavily climactic ending that I really enjoyed. I did not expect. It kind of threw me for a loop when the ending finale part started, but it was really, really good. So I think, even though this game is short, play through it just to get to that ending and everything comes together, and I was really, really happy with the ending. Although the story throughout is pretty basic, there's a couple of things that happen. It's not the best. It's solid. It's there. I don't really know. I've heard Journey has a great story. I'd say Sword of the Sea is a solid story. It's got a great finale, a great ending to the game that I really enjoyed. But getting there was just solid. It was enough to get me through the short runtime. Some cool moments throughout, but nothing crazy out of this world or anything that really shocked me until the ending. I really enjoyed the ending, if you couldn't tell. I think that Sword of the Sea, story-wise, very solid throughout the runtime. So, what is the verdict for Sword of the Sea? This game came out a couple weeks ago. It is on, I believe it is on Steam, and it's also on PlayStation. I do not believe it is on Xbox. It is going for $30, and I took 3 hours to finish this game. You could finish it in 2. Maybe you could get it to 4 for an entire. If you want to get your money's worth out of this game, you can try to get like a really good run with a high score at the end. It does tally up all the tricks that you've done throughout the game and give you a final score with a multiplier depending on how fast you did it. So you could go for that, the collectibles, and getting all the tricks and everything. So you could probably add a couple hours on your playtime if you want to get your money's worth out of this game. But if you did it like I did, I played this game with PlayStation Plus because it's also available day one on PlayStation Plus. And for $30, if you're going to buy the game and you're just looking for a one playthrough experience, I would maybe wait until this game goes down to about $20, because it is a 2-3 hour experience. And when it comes to these types of games, like I said, I've not played the Journey, Pathless, Abzu. I've not played any previous Giant Squid games. But when it comes to these games that are short 2-3 hour experiences that do a lot of visual storytelling, there are, I think, better games out there. I think of a game like Inside that is really, really good. I'd even pick a game like Cocoon that is very, very good. But Sword of the Sea, I think, if you're going to go buy it, I would wait until it's down to $20. But if you do have PlayStation Plus, I would definitely recommend checking it out with that subscription. It is worth it. Short experience. I think it is something that if you want to get all of what 2025 has to offer, you should check this game out. It is a, I'd say, pretty good to great experience throughout. The gameplay feels great. Story is solid. There's stuff to go and find, explore, and the visuals and soundtrack are very, very good. So that is what I think. If you're going to buy it, wait till it goes down to about $20. But if you have PlayStation Plus, I definitely think it's worth checking out. So that is going to do it for the video. Thank you guys for watching, hanging out and talking about Sword of the Sea. Let me know if you've played it and what you think about it down in the comments. If you agree or disagree with what I have said, let me know. Let's talk about Sword of the Sea together down in the comments. So that is going to do it for the video. Thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for more, and I'll talk to you later.